Do you like this microphone?
Yeah, I like yours or mine?
This one right here.
Oh, I do. It's incognito.
Yeah, that's what I was going for.
Hold on. I don't want my bathrobe in the background. You can't see my bathrobe? Welcome to the podcast. This podcast, it's called The United States of Consciousness.
So we are exploring consciousness, personal development, our own experiences in life, but really figuring stuff out ourselves at the same time.
Yes, together we are bringing our wisdoms and insights, but also learning along the way with everybody else. We're exploring consciousness, as I like to say.
Yeah. So I'm Tim,
I'm Dana.
and this is the United States of Consciousness. So should we talk a little bit about sort of our background? Because we are brother and sister, but only recently.
Absolutely. Yes. I think the background definitely helps quite a bit. And for more context, Tim's on the West Coast and I am on the East Coast.
Yeah. We are a good balance because there's a lot of things we don't agree on, right? But at the end of the day, there's a lot in the most important things we do.
Absolutely. It's a good balance for sure.
Yeah. So our story, I was at the dentist office, which is bad enough. And I got a message on 23andMe from Dana letting me know that she was my sister. And I had others. There were others, another brother and another sister.
I know. What a way to find out. It's I actually rescheduled my dentist appointment for today. That is so funny.
See, everything is connected.
Entirely, for sure. Oh my goodness. It started many moons ago. So for Christmas, for the holidays, my ex-mother-in-law buys these ancestry DNA kits. And she's like, oh, this is going to be so much fun. And this is 2019. And so, in truth, I'll be honest, my main concern, I was like, I'm going to be heated. I'm going to be so pissed if I'm not Italian. Like, that was my main thing off the top of my head. I was like, if I've been lied to my whole life, I'm going to feel a way about it, but only in the regard of being Italian. And
Yeah.
so,
Because you also
you know,
found out that that's similar to me, right? That's an important statement I didn't make.
oh yeah, no, this is a really good story, guys. Like, buckle up. Like, you're going to love us. Just hang in there. And so the holidays come, go, send in the spit, yada, yada, yada. The results come back. And I recognize, my mother's side, but there are all of these people in this DNA result that I was like, I don't know you. And I don't even care enough. I'm just like, whatever. Like, I'm Italian. And so my sister, for context, I have two older sisters. I am the youngest, actually, of me and my sisters that I grew up with. And they're like, we're not taking that. And so they actually do a bunch of research and then they decide they're like, we're going to do this DNA test as well. And so they come to me and they're like, oh, we know it's a lockdown. We know you just got locked in your house and you hate your marriage, but fun bonus, we didn't want mom to tell you, like we wanted to tell you, like, dad's not your dad. And I am like, what? Like, I'm like, can't even wrap my brain around it. I don't even know if I cried for like at least an hour. Like I couldn't even like register what was going on. And so immediately they're like, but you can't tell grandma. Mm-mm. And this had like real impact on me, like later on down the line, which we'll delve into later. And so, I go back and forth and I actually find our brother, Dan. And I look at Dan, I'm looking at his picture and I'm like, just like you, right? And I'm like, no, okay, maybe. Like, okay, this is real. And then I'm also trying to find like more photos of our father. And I'm like, no. Like it's a really small digital footprint. And so I reach out to Dan. It takes me a while to like muster up the courage. And I reach out to Dan and I'm like, hey, I know this probably seems like a scheme. I was like, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want your money. Like, I just think this may be a thing. And so Dan is like, oh shit, you found us. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, what? Like, and so now Dan feels really bad. Dan's like, oh, we always knew you existed, but, we just haven't found you. And I was like, what? Like, I can't wrap my brain around it, right? And they're like, oh, you're the paternity paper baby. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so they're like, they're fixated. They're just like, no, like, They're, like, giving us the background, and they honestly couldn't have been more warm and welcoming, and they're like, "We're
Yeah.
so sorry." And so we end up having all these conversations, and we're, like, going back and forth, and I was like, "I don't know, you guys. My family wants to keep this kinda quiet. Like, I don't think my family sent you maternity pay. Like, I don't think that was me." I was like, "But, we can figure it out." And so randomly, one day, Amazon is having their, like, Prime Day sale. And so I was like, "I'm gonna do it." I was like, "I'm gonna buy, 23andMe. Like, why not?" It was, like, half off. And so I'm laughing with them. I was like, "Could you even imagine?" I was like, "Could you even imagine if we had another sibling?" And lo and behold, I find Tim. It
Yeah.
was me. And Tim was at the dentist office.
Yeah, and my story is very similar to yours, except you were the youngest in your family growing up, and you're actually the oldest of us newfound siblings, and I was the oldest growing up, and I'm actually the youngest of us. So,
You know, the law of attraction, I was just thinking about that this morning. I wanted to ask you about that hierarchy, which
yeah.
is wild. So we're both the youngest and the oldest. What a unique
Yeah, we are. Perfect balance.
attribute. Look at that. Oh my goodness. I couldn't believe it. It was wild.
And you actually really struggled. So I felt sort of relieved to because I would rather know things and not know things, but you really struggled for a while.
I did, for an onslaught of reasons. Yeah, I mean, that's really, like, deep. Sometimes, like, when I tell people, for me, it's been a few years now, and so I'm really comfortable with it. But, like, when I talk to people and I interact with people, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I found out my dad's not my dad." Their reaction is like, "Wow, Dana, that was kinda heavy over a mimosa. Like, good morning."
Mhm.
I'm like, "Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot that was pretty heavy." I suppose it's just difficult to have this core belief, right? Like your whole life. And then in your adulthood, you're like, no, that's actually not who you are at all.
Yeah.
But, makes me who I am today and who we are today and puts us here. And so now we get this beautiful opportunity it was, now that I think about it, it was actually my hairstylist in Los Angeles. She was like, just reach out to them. She was like, it's beautiful to find siblings. Like, who cares? Like, just do it. And so she really gave me the push to like reach out.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It's still hard, but I love the lessons I've learned from it. And now we get to do this. How incredible.
Yeah, everything is meant to be. It always happens the way it's supposed to.
It's really, the synchronicities are wild because I think you and I also we both moved west, like we both
Mm,
left home and then we both came back. We have very similar trajectories and paths for only really coming together in our 30s.
yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah, it's
know
pretty
it's a
incredible.
secret. I look like I'm 19.
It is incredible, and it just sort of, like, shows how everything that is meant to be, it is, right? And I that's really what we're exploring in this podcast and what we're trying to figure out is really that expanding our own awareness, through talking through things, and hopefully people can follow along and have similar experiences along with us, and it's not to say that we know or we're right because it's hard to know these things, but it's just a place to sort of unpack and explore. So we'll have a different topic each week that we're going to dive into. And that's kind of the gist of the podcast.
It's incredibly well said. Thank you. That was great. I think exploring together is what makes me super excited. There's so much material out there about really kind of everything, right? Like different clairs and energy work. And I'm super interested in the law of attraction right now. Mm, And so sewing that all together in a safe place for us to discuss and learn alongside, our audience. I'm excited to dive and get other people's perspectives. I mean, it's just beautiful.
So that's a good transition. Why don't we kind of talk about your journey to awareness? Like, were you always sort of seeing things a little bit differently, or was that a process?
I do love your question. May I please share a quick data point?
Of course.
So I did a little bit of research. It's just a quick fun fact. I love quick fun facts. So from the National Library of Medicine, they did a study and it was a very small group. So it's 23,196 users that took the Ancestry DNA test. Of that survey, 3%, which is a big number for only 26,000, and they found out that their biological parents were not their biological parents.
Wow.
And 5% of that same sample found out that they had either additional full siblings are half siblings. And so it's beautiful to have this experience where you think it's just you going through it, but there's actually so many more of us. Like that's a very small sample, like to begin with, 23,000. And so there's just more people like us that we can dive into this journey with. And now we can
Yeah,
segue.
that's
Thank you for listening.
that seems like an SNL skit, like Ancestry.com ruining lives since 2008 or whenever they started.
But thank you for letting me share my fun fact, and we'll
Yeah.
circle back to your question.
Yeah. So my question is your journey to awareness. Is this something that you had always sort of seen things differently than other people, or was it a process for you to be where you're at now?
That is a great question. So thank you. I've always known, sort of in like the fiber of my being, that I was different than everybody else, but in a more like self-aware way, being more aware of like energy and feeling things, right? Like I can feel music, like how some people can like look at a painting and like feel that painting. I could do that with music. So I suppose the awareness has always been with me all along. And growing up, I've always been very interested in metaphysical studies and energy work. Very, very interested in that. And then it wasn't actually until one day you were like, came up to me and you were like, I know. You're like, you're a medium. I know you are. Right. It was like this instinctual, like energy exchange. Like you didn't even think twice. You just looked at me and you were like, I know. And I knew, like, I knew that you knew. And I think I was a little bashful. I think I was like, yeah, I've only known you for like an hour. And so as, our relationship developed and progressed, you actually really intrigued my mind. Like we started talking about consciousness and you were saying a lot of things that I resonated with. And I was like, oh, wow, like there's someone else that like is intrigued like I am. Like there's someone else that like is catching the wave. And then the conversation progressed and I got a little too far for, my science brain. But I was deeply intrigued. And the more we talked about it, the more I was like, Tim's right. Like, Tim's got great points. Like, actually, that makes a lot of sense when I connect those dots. Like, okay, like, let's talk about this more. So, us really coming together has really given me this doorway, this open doorway of like exploring. And so that's how I got here. And that's how we are here now. And I'm very
Yeah.
interested for you as well, because I know this is a topic that you really thoroughly enjoy. And so, how did you land here? Tell us where your sparks of interest came from.
So I think if you like ask people when I was a child, they would say I was probably, like a old soul type of person. And I think
Oh,
just
I love
like
old souls.
normal, like egotistical teenage years, and I probably got away from that, right? Cared more about sports and girls and things, and really wasn't. I can't say I've like have always, focused on awareness and consciousness, but as time went on, specifically when I went to college, and there was a summer where I went to a small state school in upstate New York, and I was
Nice.
I didn't go home for the summer, and I worked at a lumber yard, doing stocking and normal college kid stuff. But I lived in a single apartment. I spent a ton of time alone, and I growing up with three sisters, and I this is my first time really being alone, and I thoroughly enjoy being alone, honestly, just because it gives my mind space to work. So it was really at that point that's when I read David Hawkins' book, Transcending Levels of Consciousness. And that's really kind of how my journey started. And then from there, I went to the Tao um, teachings and really like just focused on Eastern religions. And I remember going to the library at college
Nice.
and just consuming as much Eastern religion as I possibly could. And it's progressed since then. I wouldn't call myself a practicing Buddhist or Taoist or anything like that. Certainly not. So it's really has progressed ever since then. And as time goes on, it becomes more and more important to me. And that transition into sort of a blog about transcending levels of consciousness. And yeah, really from there, just sort of and you go through waves, right, where it's like life happens and you focus less on that stuff,
For
and then
sure.
something happens that pulls you out of it, and so it's a constant wave of how aware we are.
I really like that. I was gonna say the same thing. I think a lot of my journey, especially over the last 2, 3 years, I've been diving into a lot of different type of work, like shadow work and therapy. And so I think that too has really been a catalyst for my interest. A lot of times, like when you break out of those like childhood cycles, you break out of like that childhood trauma, and you start to really learn that your authenticity is really what brings you peace. And the goal is really peace. And the only way out is through, right? Like you have to go through those experiences to find that enlightenment, right? Which is a little similar to Buddhism, right?
Yeah, and
Mhm.
you just, you nailed it with the peace comment. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people late nights around fires where they're telling me, these things that they're doing and these problems and these like, and my answer is always like, stop, do nothing. There is nothing to actually do. And we sort of create all these anxieties and problems and these sufferings in order to achieve something when there's really nothing to achieve. And actually, the less that we do and the less that we think and the less that we chase, really the more peace that we have. And that's really where that alignment comes. And that's when these things are more prevalent and obvious to you, the less that we do. And that's kind of a hard concept because we feel like we need to do more work, more. And that's society and that's just life in general. But in reality, you need to do less.
Right, right. I was going to say the same thing. There's so much noise, right? Like I call it noise. And there's a lot of internal work too. And so when you say to somebody a very like broad, just, hey, like it doesn't matter, actually. I think it's hard for people to sink into that concept, until they do
Mm,
the work, right? Like until you're like sometimes my boyfriend will say to me, he'll be like, but none of this actually matters, right? And I'm like, oh, you're right. I'm stressed out for absolutely no reason whatsoever. It's interesting when I think about like spirits and things like that. Like when you look at people that get readings, like the only thing that ever comes through is love. It's never like, oh, I'm so happy I got that promotion and oh, I'm so happy I had those 3 cars and it's really always just love. And that's what they are. It's what we are and in entirety. Like that's just what we are. Like and I think that's is that a frequency, right? Like a vibration is love, right? That's really what we are. And I suppose you
yeah.
have to have the uh open mind, right? To think outside of like your physical being because we're more than just our physical beings.
Yeah. Or you could argue we're not at all our physical beings, right? Just that vessel concept that we're here with this life now and we'll be here or there or somewhere with another vessel at another time. And that's kind of the sort of the root of most anxiety is realizing that it doesn't matter. And that's not to say that life doesn't matter. My general philosophy is like the purpose of life. And, most of my blog content and YouTube videos, stuff like that is really just focused on the fact or what I believe to be a fact that the purpose of our life is to transcend levels of consciousness, which means to raise awareness. And unfortunately, the way that that's done in society and life is to struggle, to go through the hardest things possible. So when we come out, our level of awareness is a little bit higher. But in reality, the fastest way, the most efficient way to get there is actually do nothing. And that's a super hard concept. It's also not realistic to do, right? Because you have to survive, you have to have a house, and it's not realistic. So I'm not saying like that's that's what I do. Obviously it's not. But in reality, it's a good mechanism to get there.
I want to say there's a phrase, and I believe the phrase goes, do nothing and nothing will not be done. I think that's also in the Buddhism, Taoism realm. Do nothing and nothing will not be done.
Yeah, that double negative, that's tough.
When you don't take action, there's still action going on, right? Like
Sure. Yeah.
it's almost like surrender. Right. And I don't know as energies having a human experience if our ego is designed to surrender because it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that goes back to authenticity, right? Like you mentioned, the surrendering our ego and actually being our real self, like that is the way to peace.
Yeah, like imagine if you were like, actually, I don't want to go to that family holiday. Thank you so much. Right. Like, or, I don't. I don't really want to have fish for lunch today, or, whatever the case may be, right? So in like modern society, we might call that like drawing boundaries, right? But in actuality, like you're just making your most authentic choice.
Yeah.
And when you live from that place of authenticity is when life just opens up, right? Like that's why I wanted to talk about the law of attraction, this idea that like attracts like, right? So the more you surrender, like the easier it gets.
Yeah, and anybody who, like, knows me in my personal life, they probably have heard me say a million times, I don't do anything that I don't wanna do, which sounds like a real, like, asshole thing to say, and, I do know that some people take when I say that way, and it's true, I really don't do anything that I really don't wanna do, and it really is
Good.
to save my own peace. It is an authenticity thing, it's not like a selfish thing, like, it's really so that I can be my best self, like, just don't put yourself in situations that you know are not gonna bring you peace or happiness. It's actually not that hard, but it becomes hard.
Yeah. Absolutely. For me, I don't know if people can resonate with this, but, I struggled with that my whole life, and it wasn't until really now where I started being like, actually, no, I'm good. And it's so powerful to step into that frequency and actually live it. And then you start to really see like who falls away, right? Like who actually respects your boundary. Like, is that actually a good energy that you want around you? But it's hard. I'm sure people might be able to resonate with the idea of, you're born into a family, right? And that family's just trying to teach you what's good, right? They're just trying to like help you out. But they accidentally create like these generational trauma wounds, right? Of like, oh, well, if you loved me, you would do this. And it's like, well, that's actually incredibly unhealthy. And I do love you, right? Like, I don't have to do that action to display my love and affection for you. But that person just loves you, right? Like, they may not know it's essentially rude.
Well, it's for them, right? Like, it's not for
Right.
you. So don't say that you love me and that that's why you want me there. Like, you want me there for you, to make you feel
Yeah.
better about your parenting, and my parents are great, so I'm not applying this to myself. So, like, but in
Absolutely. I
reality,
know what you mean.
that happens all the time, right? It's like
Yeah.
people want you to to be there to do something, but it's for them. It's not for you.
Right. Right. I suppose it's a little, I don't know. It's like, what do you do when you come from like a tight knit family? You come from a tight knit family and they have these strong family values, and it's not painted as being really detrimental because it actually really just is. So it's a nice form of awakening.
Couple things you can do, right? You can change your perception of how you view the event or the burden that's being put on you, right? And you could realize that,
Yeah.
it's not for you, and that's okay because there's happiness to be found in that. But what you can't do is subject yourself to some sort of experience that you really don't want to do and not have the right perception with it, right? Because that's just bad all
Yeah.
around. And that's just like a cycle that everybody finds themselves in constantly. It's you either reframe it yourself or don't be there. That's the only two options.
It's hard. It's so hard. The guilt trip from the family, it's hard. I'm sure many, many people know what I'm talking about. And when
I'm
you
sure they do.
find God, when you find that freedom, like, I love saying no. One of my favorite things to say is, "No" is a complete sentence. You
Yeah,
don't
it
have to
is
give
too.
people a reason, like, you could just not wanna do it, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, the holidays are coming up, so this could be good advice. People setting their boundaries.
I love that, and finding your consciousness along the way.
Yeah.
I love
Well,
that.
Dana, this is the first episode. We'll be back next week, and we need to find like a cool sign off too. Maybe we should work on that for next week.
I'm so excited. And a jingle. You know how I feel about the jingle.
Yes, a jingle will be coming. She's on it.
Well, this has been so wonderful. Thank you for diving into this with me, and I'm very excited to learn and explore consciousness with you and everyone else. Thank you.
Me too. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.